Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Missouri MUFON statewide meeting. We are happy you could join us this evening. Our special guest is Preston Dennett. But first, I just want to mention a couple of items. I guess this happened today that John Schuessler's wife, Kathy, died unexpectedly. So we're all sorry to hear about that. John, of course, was a founder of MUFON, and he recently retired from the board of directors. A couple of other things. I don't know if you know about our book yet, but Debbie and I recently published a book about the Southeast Missouri Ozarks UFO flaps, and that is now available on Amazon if you're interested. Also, Debbie has some books that she bought from Preston. So if you would like to get a copy of his books, just contact Debbie, and I'm sure you can work something out, especially if you're in St. Louis. You can just go to the St. Louis meeting. And if everything works out, I am going to be the speaker at the meeting in St. Louis this month. And I will bring some of our books along with us as well. So without further ado, then I'm going to introduce Preston. Preston began investigating UFOs and the paranormal in 1986 when he discovered that his family, friends, and coworkers were having dramatic, unexplained encounters. Since then, he's interviewed hundreds of witnesses and investigated a wide variety of paranormal phenomena. He is a field investigator for MUFON, a ghost hunter, paranormal researcher, and the author of 30 books and more than 100 articles on UFOs and the paranormal. Several of his books have been Amazon UFO bestsellers. His research has been presented in the LA Times, the LA Daily News, the Dallas Morning News, and other newspapers. He's taught classes on various paranormal subjects and lectures across the United States. Welcome, Preston. Glad you could join us. And you'll have to take off your mute.
There, I did it. Sorry. Thanks,
Okay.
Margie. Yeah, I'm super excited to present tonight, and got a really interesting presentation. I hope a PowerPoint. Got about 50 images, so I'm going to go through it pretty fast. But I'm super excited because joining us tonight is the main witness, Dolly Safran, and she will be jumping in every now and then to help fill out some of the details and share her story firsthand. So it's kind of like a co-presentation together. And yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting, I hope. I'm going to share screen so you can see the images I've got for you. Just one second. Okay, you should now see a beautiful green forest. I'm not sure where this is, but I wish I lived there. Okay, hold on. Here is the slideshow. Let me start from the first slide. All right, you should be able to see that. Can you see that?
Yes, looks great.
All right. Okay, my presentation tonight is called Symmetry, a True UFO Adventure. And this is, of course, all about the experiences of Dolly Safran. I'll get into that in just a little bit. First, I wanted to let you know that I've been in this field since 1986. And after 10 years of research, I wrote my first book. That was in 1996, and really never looked back. These are all the UFO books I've written. So you can see I've been quite busy. I've also written books on the paranormal as well, because if you've been in this field for any length of time, you know it's connected to ghosts and levitation and out-of-body experiences and past lives and even Bigfoot and all of that. So I've studied all these subjects. UFOs are really what I've primarily focused on, particularly people who have had very close encounters. Of course, what I'm going to be talking about tonight is the book Symmetry. And briefly, Dolly reached out to me after her contacts, her ET contacts, recommended me. She was looking for someone to tell her story and couldn't find a really good researcher, and they mentioned my name. So that was an amazing referral. This is how we actually got in touch with each other. Dolly reached out to me. And as I started interviewing her, I realized her case was quite extensive. It took a while to bring her out of her shell and get her to share all the details. And after a year or so, she really opened up. And I realized her case was probably the most extensive I've certainly had the privilege of interviewing anyone about and researching, but really more extensive than just about any case I've even read about. Like Betty Andreas, in her case is quite extensive, but she recovered it mostly through hypnosis. Jim Sparks, he's a well-known fully conscious contactee. I think Dolly's case is probably more extensive than that. Every now and then I do have the privilege of meeting someone who's overcome the barriers of amnesia and missing time and a lot of the fear that surrounds this subject. And Dolly did that at a very young age. So she's had well over 1,000 onboard experiences, fully conscious, that she recovers, not without hypnosis, remembers as they occur. So it's quite an extensive case. And let's just dive into it, because I could talk for hours and hours and hours about Dolly's experiences. She was a military brat, so she did bounce around a lot, but grew up mostly in the Florida Everglades. It was a pretty remote area on the edge of the Everglades. So she spent a lot of time exploring the wilderness and going outside and hiking and these sort of things. She lived on a farm, but from a very, very young age, she started having experiences. And in fact, the first experience that she can recall, she was less than a year old, just a few months. And she recalled floating up out of her crib. Now, according to mainstream science, people can't remember that far back. That's not true. I've talked to many experiencers who remember all the way before age 1, and for that matter, prior lives, which is true with Dolly. So that's just not correct. People can remember that far back, and Dolly does recall, I think it was 8 months old, being lifted up in a beam of light. This was during the day, levitating over her crib and being pulled up out through the window. And that was her first really conscious experience, but it kept happening. So she developed this habit of poking her legs through the crib bars, as you can see in this picture, which her parents thought were so peculiar that they specifically took a picture of it. But that's what Dolly was doing. It was because she kept getting pulled out. And from that point on, it was sort of an ongoing thing. And it wasn't just UFO experiences. She started to have a lot of paranormal stuff happening around her. This is Dolly before age 1. She walked at a very early age. She was extremely precocious, but she started having all kinds of premonitions, blurting out events that would happen before they happened. And one really startling event occurred when she physically levitated up into the closet while playing hide and seek from her mother. And that really startled her mother, who couldn't believe it, because she levitated up to the top shelf of this closet that she could not even reach. And her mom had no idea how she got there. And this turned out to be an ability that she did quite often as a very young child, especially, but all the way up through her preteen years and really up to, I think, about age 19 is when it started to taper off. And I looked into that. I have to tell you, I've interviewed a number of contactees who have physically levitated. And I don't think Dolly was about to volunteer this information until I asked her specifically, have you ever levitated? She said, well, yes, as a matter of fact, I have. And she describes other experiences of telekinesis, poltergeist-like activity. If she got angry, stuff would fly around. So this was something that was sort of an ongoing part of her life. Okay, moving along. At age 2, there was a very startling experience where Dolly went missing from her home. And she had just been put to a nap, and her mom came to check on her. Her mom, who was, by the way, 8 months pregnant with Dolly's younger brother, could not find Dolly and searched the whole house, searched outside of the house. She was not there. They called the police. and were canvassing the neighborhood looking for her when they got a call. Dolly had been found at the local U-Totem convenience store, which, by the way, was some 7 miles away from their home. Dolly's just a little girl. She's dressed only in her underwear. They had no idea how she got there. Dolly had no real memory of it except being picked up and put back. But back then, she didn't have any way of interpreting what was going on. So this is when things really ramped up in the home. They realized something very strange was going on with Dolly. They started locking the doors, putting double locks on the windows. They bought guard dogs, but this did not stop Dolly from disappearing out of her home. I think this is an important detail because it shows that this is a physical event. She's being physically taken up, as I think most contactees are. So here is a picture of Dolly, her parents, and her little brother, Bobby. And it was from this point that Dolly not only was having paranormal experiences, but she had a near-death experience. She had contracted, gosh, what was it, Dolly? It was not meningitis. It was
infectious mononucleosis.
Mononucleosis, that's right. And got sicker and sicker and lost weight and ended up having a near-death experience. It's interesting to me because there are a lot of contactees who report near-death experiences, but it was a very typical experience. She went out of her body to the other side. There was a loving figure there who she could not see, but basically gave her a message that she would be working very closely with animals, which turned out to be very much true. She became a zookeeper, has had a long list of really interesting jobs, actually, including lifeguard, a manager at a Wendy's, a limo driver. She worked for the Department of Treasury at one point, Department of Defense in the Army, and a registered nurse. So she's quite intelligent and is trained in a lot of different disciplines. And it was also around this time, she was so psychic that her father decided to take her to be tested at Homestead Air Force Base. And boy, were they excited, the military officials, when she was able to guess all the cards in a card deck and do all kinds of remote viewing. She very nearly got pulled into what we would probably call the secret spy program. But her father was advised to get her out immediately, which he did. So that was a good thing, because it was from this point on, Dolly came under constant surveillance by government officials, which I'll get into a little bit later. But yeah, now I would like to let Dolly talk about the time she had her first experience that she consciously recalls with a UFO coming down. They had just seen the movie Mary Poppins, and she was in the front yard, and I'll let you take it from here, Dolly.
I had gone outside in the afternoon, and it was my habit to lay down in the grass and just look at the sky and think and, enjoy the day. And I was looking up, we had a big old ficus tree, and I was watching the clouds go, over the top of it. And suddenly I started to see an umbrella coming down, a huge umbrella. And I think it's because I had just seen Mary Poppins. I was seeing her umbrella minus the hook that came down with the parrot on the end of it. I could just see the envelope of the umbrella, and it was slowly rotating, and I was mesmerized, and I could hear, kind of music in the background. I guess it was their way of keeping me calm while they came down above me. And I suddenly had a momentary blank out, and I woke up on in a craft. I didn't know I was on one yet. I was sitting on the lap of this woman, and she was smiling at me, and she gave me a hug, and I wasn't afraid of her. I knew she was different, but I was a kid, who cares? Pretty. She was pretty to me. And she told me her name, to call her Mama, that I was related to her, and that she would always take care of me when I was on board with them. and that she wanted to teach me how to touch foreheads with her. That's how they greet. And so I did. I learned to touch foreheads. And at that moment, I realized she's not moving her mouth. I could hear her in my mind. And that fancied me greatly. I was just mesmerized by what was happening to me. I was just a little young kid. I went from that moment, I blanked out again, and I woke up, instead of being outside, I woke up in my house, and I was in a part of the house I couldn't get to easily from the out of doors. And my mom had I was in the living room behind a couch. And I stood up, and that shocked my mother. She was walking by. She said, "How did you get in here?" And I realized that I didn't know what to say to her. I tried to explain it to her, and she's staring at me like I was out of my mind. And my memories of Mama from that moment forward are always of this wonderful, calm, loving individual who was responsible for me when I was on board. And she took very good care of me. She always has. And she's beautiful. She's absolutely beautiful. She had big blue-green eyes, and she liked to wear smocks. I drew this smock. She had a thing for them gingham smocks for some reason with big pockets in the front. And I don't know if she did that because it made me at ease, but it was just amazing. I was touching the cloth of it when I was with her, and it felt cottony to me. I mean, gingham, just a wonderful woman, and she is still a part of my life. She's very old. She's a tall gray, and she's probably over 826 years old now. That's what she admits to. And she's awesome. She is a liaison for all the young children. She's a mother, and she works with all the young children who come on board. And when she's not with me, she's with other children, and that's her job.
All right, that's perfect. Yeah, Dolly did this drawing, and this was her first real clue that something was going on with her that was not normal, because she was trying to share this with her friends at this point and family, and they weren't super receptive. Certainly her mom wasn't. Her brother was too young, and her dad was usually out of the house, being a military guy. He's an Army Ranger and quite highly placed. So Dolly really didn't have a lot of people to turn to. She living out in the Everglades, but she was often alone. So she learned from a very early age that this was not something you really talked about. And frankly, she was having trouble trying to understand it herself. She tried to tell her mom did not want to hear about the little people coming into her room at night, and basically shunned the whole subject completely. So Dolly was having a lot of experiences at this point that she did recall. This was usually at night, and she recalled being taken to what felt like another planet. She couldn't be completely certain. She was still trying to connect the dots, wondering if she was crazy. What are these? They're clearly not dreams. She's awake because she remembers being taken to this planet that she calls the Learning Center. And there would be these huge trees, the tallest skyscrapers. And she would be taken up into this little pagoda where she'd meet with other children, all girls. There was another tree nearby where boys were being taught. And these were not only Earth people, these were sometimes other species or grays and what have you. We're all pretty much the same species, as we'll get into. But Dolly was being taught from a very young age by the ETs on this other world where there's much lighter gravity. And initially it was all about ethics and morality and this sort of thing, but quickly escalated to scientific subjects mostly: biology, astronomy, chemistry, all the main sciences, but as well as history and other subjects. And usually this happened at night. Dolly would be taken and put back maybe minutes after she had been taken. So this was all very confusing to her. And she knew these were not normal dreams, but she did not know how else to categorize it. So she was wondering was she crazy? What's going on? And as year after year passed, this became a big stress in her life because it isolated her. She did have a friend who she knew who was being taken with her. So she did have that friend to talk to, but mostly no, there was no one to share this with. And of course, this all changed at around age 14, which you can see Dolly pictured here. And she was at her wit's end with all of this and vowed that next time anything happened, if she saw one of these objects come down, she was going to remember everything. And sure enough, it was 1971. I think that's right, 73? No, 71.
73.
73, thanks, Dolly. She had gone out to play with her telescope late at night and was just watching the stars and the moon and Orion, her favorite constellation. There's a good reason for that, as we'll see. And her father said, "It's time to go to bed. It's late. You have got to go to bed." And so Dolly packed up the telescope and went into her room and was staring out at the stars through her window, pictured here. And I'll just let Dolly describe what happened next.
Okay. Well, when my dad said go to bed, I went in the house, and it's about 1 a.m. It's a school night, and I packed down my scope, got my jammies on, and sat on the edge of my bed because I only sleep 2 hours a day. Then growing up most of my adult life, and I was looking out the window because the sky was perfectly, clear, no clouds, no nothing, and Orion was up, as were other constellations. There was just a good night to be observing all of it. And as I was gazing, I realized that I was seeing more points of light than actual stars should have been there. And I realized that they were moving, and there were about 50 of them. And they started pairing off. And some of them went northeast, west, and south. And 2 of them broke away and came back down over our area. And one of them went toward the east, which is like near Dayland Mall in Kendall, on Kendall Road. And the other one came down over the area where I was living, and I watched it come from the above the stratosphere, from space into our stratosphere, and I watched it come down. It changed colors multiple times as it came down through the atmosphere. And as it got about, 500-600 feet above our house, or the back of our house, I realized that it was metallic. And I knew something was crazy about what I was witnessing, and I was memorizing it. I mean, the minute I saw the stars moving, my brain went straight to, you can't lose this memory, you have to keep it. And I have an eidetic memory, so I started photographing every second through my mind. And when it came down just about 20 feet above the tree level, we had this big tree in our backyard behind my room. No wind that night, and the tree just started whipping around wildly, and I'm staring at this, and swaying slightly, and then it would bob every now and then. And I'm memorizing the craft from the bottom up. And when I got to the ports, I saw a being in each window of the ports that were facing me, and I freaked out. I was like, oh, wait a minute. I don't know about this. And it didn't terrify me, but it unnerved me, greatly unnerved me. I thought, they're looking directly at me, okay? And I'm a ranger's daughter. I'm taught to react to potential situations. So I tried to dive under my bed, and the room burst into blue-white light, and I froze, couldn't move. And I'm like, oh my God, and I did black out. I woke up 3-4 hours later. It's early in the morning. I'm on my bedroom floor. I'm disheveled. I'm not wearing my own pajamas anymore, and I'm funky. And I could hear my mother in the kitchen cooking for my dad. It's like 3:34 in the morning. He had to get out of there. And I was like, oh God, it's a school day. I have to meet a bus at 7 a.m. So I just went ahead and took my shower and got dressed and went in the kitchen, and she's cooking, and she said, make coffee. I made coffee. The radio's on I think it's Paul Harvey. And I'm trying to talk to a woman who never wanted to hear this ever. We had so much psychic things going on. We were a psychic family to begin with. And I was kinetic. Things happened around me constantly, and I drove her a little batty with it. And I just tried trying to talk to her because this was real to me at this point. I'm not wearing the jammies that I had on. I'm not waking up in my bed. I'm waking up on the floor. Something, I knew I was on the verge of something. And I tried to talk to her. I said, Mom, did you see lights last night? You know, say nothing, no noise, anything. And she turned around and said, what are you talking about? And I said, you know, like a UFO. And stop. And I sat down and I was still considering how to broach this. I had to at that point. It was an all or nothing moment for me. And while I was considering what to say next, the radio changed to the news. And over the news, the announcer's like, 2 Dayland police officers saw UFOs last night and described the whole damn thing. At which point I lost my crap and jumped up and was like, I told you UFOs, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, whirled on me and said, out of my kitchen now. Did not cross my mother, started slinking out. My dad met me coming in the door. And he said, go be calm, calm down, meditate, do something, calm down, you're over the top. So I went in the bathroom. In my life, that was the only private room in the house. And I locked the door, turned the light out, and sunk to the floor. And I kept thinking, how the heck am I? All I could think to do was to replay the whole thing from the beginning all the way through it. And 1 second at a time. And I started to see it in my mind. I'm reliving it. And when I got to the blue white light, boom, I snapped awake. It was like somebody slammed me in the head with a wave. It made me nauseous. My nose started bleeding. I was like whirling and freaking out. And I remembered everything. And basically what happened was when the light hit me, an energy beam came down through the light. And I saw the 2 beings that were in the windows came down this energy beam. And when they got to the floor of my room, one came over to me, the other was still by the beam waiting. And he took me by the arm and turned me around. And I couldn't resist him. And I don't know if I walked or floated, to be honest with you, but he took me to the beam and he laid his hand with my hand on top of it on the beam. And the next thing I know, the whole room became white, opaque light. And I felt different. I realized that I wasn't, it was weird, okay? And we started going up this beam and I looked up and I thought, that's the ceiling, you know? And I went right through it. We went right through the ceiling and out the roof and up through the tree. And I saw the craft above the tree still bobbing and it had an open port on the side. And it wasn't like a doorway, it was like leaning, you know, the body of it. But it was dead open and the beam went up around the ship. It didn't go in the port. It just went up alongside it. And now when I got my feet level with the opening, he shoved me in and I landed on my keister on the floor. And I was in a tight place. I mean, I was in a tight place and I looked, I could feel somebody sitting next to me. Now I'm whirling, okay? I'm pukey, whirling person. And I looked to my side and there she is, Mama. And I knew who she was. I mean, I was waking up. I mean, I knew who she was. I'd been with her many times. I knew her. I mean, it blew my mind. And just as I got excited about it, I puked all over myself. I mean, I just was, bleh. I tried to hold my shirt up to, you know, catch it. And I was so upset about that. And she's like, it's okay. And don't worry. And the 2 AI little grays came and got me and they took me to get me cleaned up. They took my clothes from me. They cleaned me up. They put me in it's like a light bath and decontaminated me. And they brought me back up to where she was and sat me down. Now I'm shaking by now. I'm going into cold shock. I mean, I was like, you know, I mean, I was just like, had some kind of weird sweat forming all over me and I was in shock. And she said, you need to walk her around, get her walking around, take her down, do something, you know. And so they walked me around. They took me from the lower part of the ship up. I got to see every room in the place. I'm looking and I'm like attaching my memories to it. I know where I'm at. I know what this all is. They even showed me my quarters. I had a little room on the craft and I had like a little twin bed, you know, single. Well, you wouldn't call it like our twin beds. It's kind of jutted out. And it had a little alcove. And in the alcove, my brush that I'd been missing for like 6 months. It was a Fuller brush my mom had bought me for my birthday and I lost it somehow and there it was. And I was like, oh my God, now I know how it was getting more and more and more. And before I left the room, the other one had left and come back, and he gave me something to drink, which absolutely helped me. I mean, calm me down. And they took me back up to see her again. And when I sat down, I hear this voice, and I don't see anybody, but I hear this voice, and he's like, "Hey, kiddo, how you doing?" And then I realized, oh my God, I know who this is. It's the craft. The actual craft itself is talking to me, and I know him. I even gave him a nickname because I could never pronounce his name right, and he let me get away with it. I call him Talata, and it's like, "We're so proud of you. You know, you did it. You woke up. We know you're conscious. We know you're okay." And he said, "We got some things to talk about. Are you all right now?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm getting more and more excited because I don't know if you know what it's like, an amnesia patient talking. Some of them are not real happy about it, but some of them are just wildly excited about getting their memories back. And that's how I was feeling about it. I was just wildly excited. And he said, "We got some things to talk about. We're going to talk about your life and what you're going to do with it. And, you know, our expectations were realized through you, and we're going to offer you a chance to work with us." And he said, "So what do you want to do?" At that age, I was 14, and I wanted to be everything. I was already candy striping. My uncle was a nurse, and I wanted to be just like him.
Before you get to that, Dolly, could we talk about where they took you to?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, once we got through that, he said, "We're going for a ride." And he handed me a wand. It linked me to him. Okay. So that I could fly the ship with him. And they briefed me, and we went. And they didn't tell me exactly where I was going, but when I saw it, I knew exactly what it was. You can't miss it. It's Saturn. You know, only one planet in our solar system had those kinds of rings. And I was like, wow. And they showed me how to maneuver up through, you know, because some of the rings have a lot of space in between them, and you can maneuver up through them and back down. And we went around the whole planet. We looked at the moons. My favorite moon is Phoebe, and it's because she's different. And she had a girl's name. I was so excited. And she's kind of odd shaped, you know, and she orbits the planet in the opposite direction of all the other moons. And she stood out. And I thought that was totally cool. And then they came up to the north part, you know, the north pole of the planet, and showed me above it at the pole. And I got to see something phenomenal. This is a gas giant. It's a gaseous planet. But in the top at the north pole of it, it's open, and you can see down into it. And it's chevron shaped, the opening. And they explained to me why that is. The planet, even though it's a gas planet, because of the rings, it creates a vibration in the atmosphere of this planet, and the vibration brings a chevron opening up in the top of it, in the north part. The bottom also has a different shape, but it's also open at the bottom. That blew my mind. You know, I was like, whoa. He took over at that point, and we went out and away from the planet, and he said, "Okay, I'm driving, let's go." And he took me to the moon, which is my absolutely favorite object in the sky. Always has been my whole life. Fascinating. And we did, you know what a spirograph is, right? We did a spirograph type orbit around it. 8 passes around the entire moon, front and back, side to side. And I got to see the backside of the moon. He showed me some places that were significant to them. One is a base. There are other places there that are just, you know, not in use anymore. They're just like artifacts. And I got to see the lander, and that blew my mind. That blew my mind. I got to see the flag, and that blew my mind even more. My father worked for NASA. I'm totally fascinated, as I can. I wish you could understand, with the moon, and I learned a lot about it. It is not a hollow object. It is an actual solid body that is orbiting us. It's not in a really tight orbit with us. It is moving away slowly, but moving away. It will break free of our gravitational influences on it someday. And I learned a lot that day. When they brought me back, they told me I would be triggered, that I would wake up and be a little foggy about everything, but that I would remember it later that day, and I did. And I ended up going to school that day anyway, no matter how I felt about it, and had a migraine, a terrible migraine. And I had a teacher who tried to get me to do biofeedback. He was into that. and they put the electrodes on my head, and he wanted me to run the train with alpha waves, thinking alpha. And I did it really fast, but I started throwing up again, and I had to leave. My best friend, when I got to school that day, met me at school, as she always did, and we talked about the night before, and she's like, I got something to tell you. And she drugged me in the bathroom, and she said, we got to see a UFO last night. And I'm like, oh my God, really? Seriously? And she's like, yes, yes. And she was with a friend and an older brother who went out, like, a little kiddie date. And I told her, please don't tell anybody. Shut up. They'll think we're crazy. Nobody will believe us. We'll get picked on mercilessly. Do not do it. And she kept her mouth shut after that. And it was quite the moment forward for us throughout our lives. But that's basically how I woke up.
Yeah. So Dolly could talk more and more about that, but we've still got a lot of stuff I want to share. But this is a turning point in her life. From this point on, she had fully conscious experiences. And it may sound unusual for someone to be taken to Jupiter, but I have to tell you, I've heard this from other contactees. A contactee from West Virginia, Jay Gardner, described the same exact experience. I believe that Ray Fowler also had this experience. And certainly I've talked to a lot of contactees who report floating above Earth or even being taken to the moon. That's what happened to Kevin Kamen, a Navy medic. He described the same sort of thing. So not as unusual as you might think. And from that point on, Dolly was taken about twice a week on the average. And mostly it was about learning, because when she actually landed on the moon, this is when they had this long counseling session. What do you want to do? How would you like to work with us? And Dolly said, yes. And they said, what are you most interested in? Well, Dolly had a lot of pilots in her family. She had a lot of military. She was obsessed with planes and flying. So she asked if they could teach her how to fly the craft. And they said, yes. It's going to be very difficult. We're going to have to do a lot of testing. It's going to take a lot of effort, but absolutely we can teach you. And that shaped her experiences from that point on. And for the next 5 years or so, when she was taken on board, this is mostly what they focused on, which started out with a lot of neurologic testing and testing of her reflexes, and escalated to all kinds of teaching about magnetics, magnetosphere, gravitational lines, and other stuff like that. So that was mostly how her experiences evolved in the beginning. When she came back, from that experience at age 14, her father, she did not realize at this point, was also a contactee. As you may know, most contactees, it's generational. And her father was questioning her about it because he knew that something was going on with her. He's known for a long time. He walked in once when the Greys were returning her, saw it all happen. And Dolly wasn't about to say, well, I've been on board a UFO, because she wasn't sure how he would react. And finally he says, listen, I need to tell you something. When I was 15 years old, I was out camping with your uncle and his brother, and they had a UFO drop down and he was pulled on board, and they counseled him, asked him what he wanted to do with his life, which ended up being mostly, a lot of different things, but architecture. And at that point, Dolly felt much more comfortable sharing her experiences with her father. They didn't talk about it a lot, but they shared that special connection. And all kinds of really interesting things started to happen while Dolly's being taken on board and taught. One experience that just blew her mind occurred when she was about 14 years old or so, 15. They were paging through an art book by Carl Larsson, a Swedish artist, with her grandmother. And they came to this page where there was a painting called Kirsty's Birthday. And her grandmother looked at one of the children there, pictured here, and said, oh my gosh, Dolly, that's you. And Dolly was staring at it because she recognized herself immediately. You can see Dolly pictured here, close to the same age. And her grandmother just kind of smiled because she knew as well that something was going on with Dolly. But that blew Dolly's mind, because instantly her mind went back to an incident which had occurred when she was just a little girl, 4, 5, 6 years old, where she was taken by them to another place that was quite different from the Florida Everglades. And she was around people of her own ancestry. She's Swedish. Well, she's got a lot of different ancestry, but she speaks fluent Swedish. And these were all little Swedish girls. It was a little party. The father was Carl Larson, and he was sketching all the girls. Dolly was specifically instructed, do not touch anything. You can drink the water, but keep to yourself, which she did. And it was just this really special experience, which she never knew how to categorize. But now she saw that she hears this painting, which was done by Carl Larson, mind you, back in the 1900s. I think it was 1915 that it was completed, well before Dolly was born. So she asked Talata and Mama about this, about like, how could this possibly be? And they explained that this was an event that we had to do. It's very important for you to meet your genetic ancestors. And this, they actually took her back in time. So this is something that shows how truly advanced they are. But it was very, very important that she not touch anything. There was all kinds of weird experiences like this, where she would be taken on board and not quite fully understand what was happening. Because there was another time she went to high school and Jim Croce had just passed away, and they were doing a tribute to him. And up came a picture of Jimi Hendrix. And Dolly just about lost her mind because she recognized him. She saw him on board the craft when she was just a little girl, 5 years old or so. And he was up there playing guitar, and she walked up to him and they had a little conversation. He handed her the guitar, and it was just a very special moment because Dolly loves music. And she recognized him as being a famous musician, but didn't understand who he was until at that point. She thought he was still alive. She had not realized he had passed away when she was at school, and this tribute was being done for Jim Croce. I thought this was fascinating because if you know anything about Jimi Hendrix, he is a contactee. His bandmate Brian Knight talked about a time that he and Jimi Hendrix and the whole band got snowed in upstate New York and had a UFO land, and the ET came out and basically saved them from being frozen to death. Jimi Hendrix did describe other close-up sightings. He never fully went public with his contacts, but during that upstate New York event, he was telepathically communicating with the ET, and his bandmate Brian Knight asked him about it, and Jimi Hendrix made it clear that this was not something that they would discuss publicly. So there were all these weird kind of events that Dolly was finally getting some answers to. And again, the first 5 years of contact were all about being trained how to fly. And around age 19 or so, Dolly was working as a security guard at Wells Fargo and had a missing time incident. This is one of the very few missing time incidents that would happen after age 14. She did have one at school once. Everyone was looking for her. And boom, she appeared on the PE field. But she had disappeared from her job where she was working as a security guard, freaked out her coworker, and she realized immediately her hand hurt. And she asked her ET contacts about it, and they said, well, basically, we needed to implant you with a little device. You're now ready to fly. And this is when they actually sat her down in the seat, and Dolly had her first flight. So here's Dolly's sketch of the craft, Talata, and she sits here in the pilot seat, and there's two little AI grays that sit next to her. Talera, the ship, is actually alive. I've had many contactees describe how they felt the craft itself was a living being. And Dolly can go into a little bit more detail about this, perhaps during the Q&A. Gosh, how much time do I have? We're 15 minutes, not much. But Dolly, from this point on, learned how to fly. And I thought it would be really cool, Dolly, if you could describe your first experience where you flew to a gas giant and you activated the little ball. This is the pilot seat. But yeah, if you could describe that real quick, 5 minutes.
I'll try to be fast. That's the pilot seat. There's an arm that comes up, and if you can see above it, it goes above my head, and it's got a magneto in there. And there's a little ball. It's a diode that I cannot pronounce this word. it's a horrifying word for me to
Dodecahedron.
dodecahedron. I always reverse it. Okay, and it's metal, and my hand, my implant initializes it, I think, to it to give it energy, and it initializes this ball, and it starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And as it does, an interdimensional electromagnetic field starts to form inside it. That's why it swells up. And I can remote view my consciousness wholly as, you know, it can, most people see me as a blue ball flying around into that ball. And I meet Talata there, mentally meet him. Our minds become one. And we cooperate with one another to fly the craft. I have an ability to remember everywhere I've ever been. And I can do coordinates. I remember every number sequence ever taught to me, literally. And that's how we find where we're going. As you're learning to fly, they take you to a place, you know the coordinates, you've been there now, you know everything about it, and they bring you back, and then I can go there again. When we're inside the ball, we create enough energy from the craft's energy supply to create outside the fields a light gate. It's not a doorway, it's a kind of a pass through, you know. You know how light goes through sheer curtains? That's what you're doing. You're becoming light, and you go through this the curtain, only dimensionally going through dimensional space. And we can travel to anywhere in the universe in less than 2 seconds. Once we get through the gate, it shuts down. We shut it down. It is very cool. That's interdimensional travel. When we're flying around the solar system, if we're in space, we're fully powered up. But when we come down into the atmosphere with the magnetosphere, we have to go to battery power because it's so powerful it would hurt people on the ground. My first flight was literally, and this was cool to me because they let my dad come. He was on board with me and got to sit and be with me when I took my first flight. And we went to a gas giant, a sun, a huge gas giant. It's way on the other side of the Pleiades. It's in the Delphi system, and way behind it actually. And it was about to, it was a sun that I had seen previously back, time travel back to watch it, supernova. And then in 1986, it did supernova, and I got to see it in my real time here. But that's the first place I went, and I made it, no problem, came back, was very proud. That was my first flight.
Yeah, and that was the first of many. And I will tell you, Grant Cameron just put out a book called Sky Pilots, where he's interviewed several dozen people who've had this sort of experience. And that's what happened with Jay Gardner, the other guy I just mentioned earlier. They sat him down in the seat and said, here, fly the craft. He flew it right into the ground, actually, which it went through the ground. He didn't damage the craft. They can move through solid objects when they're in the right phase. But yeah, not that unusual. And Dolly started to be taken to all kinds of different places. They had large, what we would call motherships, where they would have animal husbandry centers, botanical gardens, scientific rooms, all kinds of things. It was one of their missions to come down and collect plants and animals to make sure that they don't go extinct. When Dolly learned how to fly, it was throughout the 70s mostly that was being done a lot. So she basically became a pilot for them, and they would go and pick up people to examine and heal often, because that is one of the primary reasons people are taken on board, is to uphold their genetics, heal them. It's a checkup for the most part. They guide, they teach, they heal. And Dolly's experiences are entirely benevolent. And well, she can get more into that. But yeah, all kinds of animal husbandry centers and things like that. And different planets. She was often taken to a water world. This was before she was fully aware and after, where they would do grid-like experiments. There were other people who lived there that looked very much like the Polynesians here, but different animals and trees and plants and stuff, and very much like Earth. In fact, when I was discussing what to title the book, I was going to call it Dolly Among the Stars, but I asked Dolly if she had any other titles in mind. And she said, yes, I'd love to call it Symmetry. which I thought was a really catchy and interesting title. And I asked her why, and she said, explain that this was one of the lessons they taught her, that there's symmetry to life throughout the universe, not only to life, but to the actual structure of the universe itself, the macro, meaning solar systems and galaxies, to the micro level, atomic structures, molecular structures, and so forth. But that life is very much the same throughout the universe. Many contactees have been given the message that the ETs will tell them, we are you, you are us, we are one. And Dolly said that same phrase to me, which I thought was very interesting. And she was taught very specifically that we all humanoids, all humans, share the same genetics. It just dials out differently. She's also been taken to what we would call a Dyson sphere, basically an artificial planetoid. There aren't a whole lot of them. They're quite far away, but first time she was taken to one, she thought that they had gone to another planet. And they explained that, no, this is actually what you would call a Dyson sphere, which really blew her mind. She's been to those at least 4 or 5 times. And one thing very interesting happened was they took her to a planet repeatedly that was at the end of its life cycle. There was a lot of astronomy lessons that were taught in full live time. And they took her to this planet that was being slowly engulfed by a star that was expanding and eventually going to go supernova. And each time they went, all the oceans were being boiled out and the forests were burning, and eventually it completely broke apart. And Dolly was able to watch that happen in full living color. She was taught with other people, some who she does know here on Earth, many she does not know, but yeah, she's not the only one who's having these experiences. There are tens of thousands of people on Earth who are fully conscious contactees having these same experiences, but either haven't woken up or they're not talking about it. And Dolly mentioned seeing a supernova. That was that. And in fact, when this happened, when it actually hit the Earth, she was informed, like, your Hubble telescope will be detecting the supernova that you saw. And sure enough, it did. This is around 2018 or so, 2019, if I'm correct. And it was caught by the Hubble telescope. So all the specific information is in the book about this. Dolly had all kinds of really interesting animal experiences. As a general rule, contactees have this extraordinary connection to animals, which is 100% true with Dolly. We could have written a book on just her animal experiences alone, of being followed home by wild and injured animals who needed her help. There was one really interesting incident, which, well, I'll get to that later, but that's the point I wanted to bring up. But here is something that was so interesting, and I'd love Dolly to describe this briefly, about how she requested to see the Voyager space probe. And they said, yes, we will show you it. So if you could just briefly describe that, Dolly.
Yep, I knew about it. You know, being in astronomy and my dad working for NASA, I was always watching everything. And this one completely intrigued me. It was very interesting to me that they were sending this out. Unbelievable in my mind that they were doing it, because I knew other things that were going on, and I really wanted to see it. I knew it was going through, there were 2 of them, and I knew it was going through our solar system and making points of contact, you know, sending information back data. And when it was coming up to Jupiter, the second one, I thought, oh my God, just let me go. You know, can I just look at it? I want to see it. And when we got to the other side of Jupiter, where I can't be seen, they can't be seen with any reliable photography, you know, telescoping. Otherwise, no interference of data going back and forth. They let me get close enough to look, and I actually saw the disc, and I wanted to photograph it. No. I was intrigued. I was really intrigued, and it blew my mind. I did not want to be torn away from it. It was totally, totally, totally cool. It really is an anodized disc. It's gold, and it's unbelievably sparkly and beautiful. When the sun hits it, it just shines. And it just blew my mind. I also know that the message that they sent out on this, ET did reply to. And I know that y'all have seen part of it, not the whole thing that they sent back. It's very cool.
Yeah, so this was an interesting experience because this was something Dolly requested. Because often when she was taken, they would have a mission of what they call gathering the children, which some researchers call abductions. Dolly will not use that word. This is one of the reasons she came forward, because the whole contact experience was surrounded with fear, being badly confused. There was a lot of disinformation about it. And the ETs are basically picking people up. And generally, Dolly would be there and started working as a counselor to help people move through the fear and trauma that initially would often occur, because many people would be quite frightened to find themselves on board. And Dolly would work with them to calm them down. And it would be 10, 20 people a night, sometimes a mother and child, sometimes a single person, sometimes whole families. But this was something that went on constantly, and she worked mostly in the Midwest and across Europe, because she does speak Swedish and is able to understand some of the other languages there. So that was mostly what she was doing. And there was another really interesting experience she had. It's funny, I talked to a contactee who was told by the ETs, this was in Topanga Canyon, that a comet was going to hit Jupiter. And of course it did, Shoemaker-Levy, and it had a much bigger impact than scientists had expected. What's really interesting about this is Dolly brought that up too. And the ETs brought her up and wanted her to witness it firsthand. So she had a front row seat. Did you want to just talk about that for a few minutes, Dolly?
Yeah, I got to watch it break up as it was coming in. Jupiter being very gravity heavy, the comet wasn't solid. No comet really is unless it's an asteroid, and that's solid iron. Comets are different rocks of gas and liquids and things like that, so they break apart easy when they're being heated up, or they make great friction. So we saw it drop down into 7 pieces and start to, go out in a line along Jupiter's path, and right near the the red dot, the big red storm, it started impacting. I was shocked because gases were being ignited as it hit. The friction was so great. You could see them in flame, and just, it was shooting some of the comet back out into space. I don't know if you could I don't think they really could see that on the films that they were taking, but big pieces of it were shooting back out into space. And it went in, and it just was absorbed by the atmosphere there. It was in balls of flame. It was incredible. It was totally cool. Totally cool.
Yeah, I thought that was particularly interesting. I mean, we're going to have to put together a sequel, because we really only skimmed the surface of Dolly's many experiences. And one that really quite shocked me was I was doing research into people who had seen books on board, like Betty Andreasson was given a little blue book, which she got to take home for 2 weeks. Of course, Betty Hill very nearly got an ET book from the ETs, but they took it back right when she exited the craft. And I knew of other cases, and I just brought it up on a whim to Dolly. I says, I don't suppose that you've ever seen anything like a book on board, and told her Betty Andreasson's experience. She said, well, actually, yeah. And you just want to describe briefly this blue book, because it's so similar to what Betty Andreasson describes.
When they handed me the book, it was top facing me, and it looked like a giant blue sapphire. In other words, the cover was sapphire, and it was beautiful. It was opaque, but it was glinting, and it felt cool to my touch. And it was only about that thick when I first got it. It ended up being way thicker than that. And when I opened it, it lit up. Light shone from it, and some things popped up in 3D, 4D, and showed me things that I was looking for. And it basically gave me lessons about things that were important to me and what I was learning. And if I had problems, it would let me research them through it. And it's amazing. If I had any calculating to do, I did it with the book. It was my all-purpose go-to book. And then I realized that there was more to it than that, because I was learning esoteric things, spiritual things from it. And it was all about me at the same time. And it weirded me out for a while. And they told me that everybody has this book, but they can access it. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they said, well, there are 12 dimensions in our universe. And in the higher realms of dimensional space are places that are real. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they said, well, there's a huge library. It's the Akashic Library. You call it Akashic Library. And everybody has a book in the Akashic Library. And if you can go there, you can access your book. And I found that fascinating. I was like, well, why don't we have it on Earth? And they said, because we're not evolved enough to have it in our possession. And I asked why I had it in my possession. And they said, basically, I was learning things that I had to with them. And I was being given more knowledge than I would have got just being here. And I was becoming ready for it. And they used it as a tool. It knew what I could learn and what I couldn't learn. It kept up with me that way. It was an intelligent book, and it heard me. I heard it. And I love this book. And the back page, the back cover, I realized one day that I could make it into anything I wanted it to be. It was blank. It was just blue. And I love dragons. And I was sitting there thinking about it, and this beautiful blue dragon appeared on it. And I was like, oh my. And I've left it there. It's still there to this day. My dragon is on that book. And it was just for me. I made it with my mind.
Yeah, so this is not unique. Whitley Strieber actually describes this. There's a new contactee who's making the rounds. He wrote a book. His name is Jeff Selver. He describes this. It's funny, Whitley Strieber described it also as being almost like a jeweled surface. So yeah, this is something that does turn up quite a bit. It's funny because Dolly once got really cheeky and tried to sneak it back into her house when she was being returned. And of course it left her hands and she got berated for it. And actually they kept it away from her for a couple of weeks and said, no, this is something for you only. It would be quite dangerous in the wrong hands.
Right.
But it's fascinating to me because Betty Andreasen described the same sort of light coming out of it and this sort of thing. So yeah, another really cool feature of her case. And of course, she has had the opportunity to see all different kinds of ETs, little blue beings. That's from my sister-in-law. She saw them. When Dolly saw that picture, she says, yep, that's very much accurate. But tall whites here on the right of the screen is a Polynesian girl who looks very much like the people on that water world she was taken to, but all different kinds of beings. She saw at one point cat-like beings that was on the learning world, or the tree world as she called it. They were short little things, but humanoid as well as dog-like beings. She saw those at least once in full living color on the craft, quite tall, 6 feet tall. And Dolly also saw the Anunnaki winged beings. She knows all about the purse and the pine cone and the watch here. So I wondered, Dolly, if you could talk a little bit about what it was like to see the Anunnaki and what's in the purse.
You have carvings, reliefs, hieroglyphs of beings from the Babylonians to the Sumerians to the Anunnaki to the Aztec to the Mayan. They all have somebody holding a purse. And the Anunnaki and the Babylonians and the Egyptians all are holding the pine cone, which is your pineal gland, and it's referencing something there. Inside that purse is the ball that I use to expand to pilot the ship with Talata, the entity that is the ship. And all pilots have one. I have one. It's on the craft. I would never bring it here and leave it here at all, but that's why. The little watch on his hand is symbolic of the implant in our hands. All pilots have the implant in the top of their hand. And it's important to understand that that is just like a little device that they use. And I use my own body energy to initialize it. It's very cool. There's a couple of Egyptian reliefs that show the Ankh, and it's pointing at the top of the hand of an Egyptian with somebody behind with the pineal gland. And that's exactly what this is the implantation of the key. And
Yeah,
it looks,
you got to meet the winged beings once.
yes, I did. Yeah, I met Anunnaki. I was on board. I was a little kid and I was coming back from eating. I was allowed to walk around on my own, and I knew I had to go back to my quarters and get ready for bed. And there was a meeting going on, and Mama was there, and two of them were standing there, and one of them was kind of watching me out of the corner of his eye, and his wings were cool as. I mean, I was fascinated because they don't really look like bird feathers. They're not, I don't even know how to describe it. They're kind of. Have you ever seen a fluffy chicken? You know, what are those? Anyways, it's like a fluffy chicken, but not that long. They're short and they're very together. And he could flex them, and everything. I was watching him, and he finally he looked at me over his shoulder and he went, "Come on," invited me. I could hear him in my head, and I was like, "Me?" And he was like, "Yeah, come on." And I walked up to the back of this man who was over 8 feet tall. I'm a little kid. I'm like, "Ugh." His wings went all the way down to his ankles, and I just pet him like this, feeling them, and I could feel him bristle them. And I was looking up at his back, and I was thinking, oh my God, it's muscular, but he has arms. That freaked me out too. I mean, like you'd see it there, huge muscles. And he bristled a little bit, and I let go. And in my mind, Mama's like, okay, enough, walk back. And I walked on back, and I watched him the whole way. I almost slammed into a wall because I couldn't take my eyes off him. They can fly. They cannot fly in our atmosphere because our gravity is too heavy and they're too big. But Earth didn't used to have that much gravity. It was much lighter way back when. But where they're from, their world, oh yes, they can fly, and they do. It's amazing.
All right. Yeah, so she's seen all kinds of other beings too, blue skin beings, light beings, interdimensional beings. I mean, we could do a whole hour on just the types of ETs. She's also seen many people being healed. There was a lady who was in a house fire, burned over most of her body. The ETs brought her on board and healed her. It took a couple of days, and she requested to stay with them, and they granted that. And this is something that does happen. It's not super common, but they will rescue people from disasters where perhaps their bodies won't be missed, or homeless people who are also not going to be missed. One time she was piloting the craft when they brought on a person who was on death row, about to be put to death. They counseled him. So this is often all about healing. Dolly herself has been healed on a number of different occasions. Once she broke her elbow slipping on the ice, and her full-grown hybrid son came and healed her. It was a very poignant experience for her. And another time she hurt her knee real bad. They healed her then. Dolly has shown me her medical records, by the way. I've talked to some corroborating witnesses. So her story is not resting solely on her own testimony. There are other people who support it. There's medical evidence, and as I'll show you, some incredible photographic evidence. One time she was taken on board. There was a man who was not at all cooperative, and she was trying to counsel him and talk him through it. He refused to be physically examined. So the ETs said, okay, that's fine, and sat him down. And Dolly sat next to him and just trying to talk to him. And finally, he reaches out and pinched her real bad. And you can see the little blood blister right here on her arm. You can't see it here. It's covered by the little thing here. There we go, right there. So that was an interesting experience. And I think it's important because if someone does not want to work with ETs, they will honor that request. Problem is, a lot of people, on one hand, consciously are having a hard time with it. It's traumatizing. They don't like it. But another part of them, their subconscious or their superconscious, whatever you want to call it, is saying, yes, I want to continue these experiences. We have a tendency to compartmentalize our consciousness. And the ETs are talking to all of our whole awareness. So this is one of the confusions why some people feel like this is involuntary, when in fact it's not. And that's certainly what most contactees at some point have told me that they feel like they did in fact agree to this, though initially it can be quite traumatizing. Here was an experience that Dolly had as a zookeeper, where this gibbon, Sarah, developed leukemia and was going to pass away. And Dolly just was torn up about it and requested the ETs to heal the gibbon, which they did. And the gibbon survived the leukemia diagnosis, quite astonished the veterinarians. And I think it's an important case because there are other cases I've researched of animals who have been healed. Dogs, cats, horses, often it's usually pets. But yeah, this was another case of an animal being healed. Dolly is under constant surveillance. I'm wrapping this up now because we just have another 5 minutes or so, and I want to show you some of the photos and films. But Dolly has been under constant surveillance since she was a little girl. Her father, in fact, taught her Krav Maga. Is that probably mispronouncing that? Krav Maga. Sorry. And self-defense, because at some point they did try to actually kidnap her. And under constant surveillance with these guys in SUVs watching her. She was sending me lots of footage of this. And in fact, when I met Dolly the first time, face to face at the Contact in the Desert, Dolly's first con.
MegaCon.
Oh, I'm sorry, MegaCon, the UFO MegaCon in Laughlin. Dolly has stayed out of the UFO field completely for most of her life. That was her first conference ever. And we had rented a little Airbnb some distance from the conference. And we're driving back one evening. And I'm like, Dolly, I think we're being followed. This was a little Airbnb off of several side streets. And sure enough, every turn I took, we were followed. And Dolly just kind of shrugged and was like, I'm telling you, I live with this. And I watched it happen. And finally, we pulled up to the Airbnb and parked in the driveway and walked inside. And this person parked in front of the driveway, blocking it, looking kind of glaringly at us. And so I got to see this sort of thing firsthand. And this is something a lot of contactees have complained about to me, but that was the first time I actually saw it firsthand. And I would like to just now wrap this up with some of the photographic evidence Dolly has. This is not all of it. She does have a YouTube channel where you can see some more of this. This is a still from a video where it shows the craft. I love this one because you can actually see the actual metallic surface of the craft. This is when she was staying in an apartment, I think in Georgia. And I'll show you the video of that in just a second. There's a close-up of it. Here is a picture of Talata, and he's flaring up and dropping a drone. This is another still from a video, which I'll show you. And here is also, I believe this is an ET drone. Is that right, Dolly, or is that Talata?
Drone.
That's an ET drone, and you can see it as well here. They have the ability to turn upside down. So these are just some of the still photographs, and there are many of them. And here's a close-up of Talata craft. You can see the whole almost sort of disc shape of it. But I really want to play you the films, because here's one. I like this because it's a daylight sighting. There had been a bunch of craft in the sky, so Dolly ran and got her camera. She was complaining to the ETs. She says, how come you won't give me any footage? You know, if I'm going to go public, I'm going to need some evidence. And finally, they relented and said, okay, we will give you some evidence, because she had been trying for a long time and it was not successful. And then she caught this footage, which this is going to be about 30 seconds long, so real quick. You should be able to.
That is a UFO.
I'm talking to my friend Melissa. I was on the phone with her and I was filming it.
So I love this because you can see it's hovering in the sky. It's clearly not a plane. It's going behind the tree there. Dolly was smart to get the eaves in the foreground. And it's just a really
I'm not going to catch it.
cool piece of footage. Disappears behind the branch there. I'll play that one more time because that was real quick. But yeah, this is not a balloon.
That is a UFO.
This is not a helicopter. It's not a plane. And they had actually come down and put on a little display for her. And they did this several times to leave no doubt that they are real. So it's important because Dolly's case has an enormous amount of evidence in support of it. Different kinds of medical evidence and more. All right. Here is another piece of footage that's 2 minutes. And this is at the Laughlin MegaCon in 2021, right?
Yes.
And you can't quite see it yet. It's going to catch up in just a minute here, but Dolly flew there. She was followed, and there you can see it. She's with her friend Yvonne. And
Down from outer space there, he's dropping through the atmosphere at that point. He's just a dot. And Yvonne loses sight of him for a second, and I take the phone from her because I can see him. She can't really focus on him yet with her own eyes. And you'll see what happens after that. I get him after that. He's coming down and coming down and coming down. He came down within 3,000 feet of me, and I had a really pretty good zoom on my camera. So I got as close to him as I could get with it at 3,000 feet.
yeah, I think
And
this is where you take the phone
from
from
her.
Yvonne. Yeah.
Yeah, my friend is Yvonne Watson. She's a paranormal investigator.
Get him. Yep, there he is. He's dropping drones. It's one of the guys.
Yeah, that was actually the one. Talada's the other one. That's the one that's dropping drones. Talada was watching him. And there was a third one still pretty high up on the left.
Oh, come on. You can let me see. Thank you.
There you go.
He just dropped 4 drones at one time.
And those drones are how big? Pretty big, right? Like 20 feet across? Or
They're about 50 feet across. The eggs that you see that the military says they have, that's them.
I'm so tired.
yeah. I was arriving the next day, so I missed that.
It's okay.
But
We're gonna charge up tonight. You're gonna be back.
I did get to see activity when I went over there. So I've seen Dolly's UFOs myself. And here's one of my favorite pieces of footage. You can't see it, but there's a roof line here. This square is a window covered with a pillowcase or a sheet. And right here is the craft. And I'll just play this piece of footage here, which is quite short. It's a minute and a half. And you can see the craft right here. And this came down as low as it could without actually knocking out the camera.
I'm ready.
You can hear the traffic noises. You can see the glinting on the metallic surface. So how far away is that, Dolly? Pretty close, right?
100 feet, which surprised me, but he's turned, like, their line of sight where they emit a pulse, an electromagnetic pulse. If they turn the craft away from you so the pulse isn't hitting you, you can get pictures of him. So he was turned so that I could.
Yeah, and this is just a taste of some of the amazing footage Dolly has. Again, I would encourage you to go check out her YouTube channel, which is her name, Dolly Safran, all one word. And she's got twice as much or more than I've put out here in this presentation. But yeah, it's important that people realize that she does have evidence to support her story. This is a window. There's a roof right up here. And this is a fairly populated area.
It's a porch that they enclosed. It's just a flat roof. Yeah.
All right. And that's basically the presentation. I hope you've enjoyed it. We just skimmed the surface of Dolly's experiences, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and I'm sure Dolly is too. But yeah, thanks very much for watching. I appreciate it.
Gosh, Preston, that That was fantastic. And Dolly, thank you so much for sharing your story. It's just amazing. I've got a million questions, but I'm going to go ahead and let
Okay.
other people ask. And I'm actually going to have to be back in touch with you because I've seen some things I recognize. Let's put it that way.
That's
So
fine.
does anybody else have any questions?
I do.
Okay, Larry?
Yeah, hi. Dolly, I was just curious, or Preston, if you happen to know anything too, about this topic. This last segment where you saw the rod-shaped craft and then something kind of hiving off, a drone, as you call it. I have seen something like that in footage from a million miles off of Earth. We have a solar observatory that
Right.
takes images 4 times a day of the sun. And
Yeah.
I've seen video, not just that, but there's also another observatory that takes live video of the sun. And I've seen rod-shaped craft. It's hard to know exactly what perspective, how close they are to the sun, because it's just between us and the sun. But I've seen definitely a lot of activity around there.
Right.
And people keep telling me I'm crazy, but have you any knowledge about that or anything
Yeah.
similar?
They are observing our solar system, and every planet in our system has drones dropped around it, and they can only fly for a few days at a time, and then they bring them back to recharge. We establish a power source on them, and it is a regular event. We are being observed by drones to this day. They are physically not flying here anymore right now. They can't. Our magnetosphere is down. Are you an astronomer?
Me, no, just for fun.
Oh, okay. Well,
I mean,
our
I have a telescope, but I haven't been able to get into it,
okay. Well, our solar system is going through some huge changes right now, and our magnetosphere has dropped its frequency and its ability to push away gamma radiation from us because our poles are flipping, and it's
Right.
breaking down the resonance of our magnetosphere. So they're not flying here right now. They haven't been for about 2 years almost now, but they are dropping drones still. Drones are still flying around us. And they have a couple sentinels throughout the universe, not universe, our solar system, to watch as things happen in real time. So yeah, but you're observing drone drops and retrievals. So that's how they do it.
Okay. Appreciate that.
Carl, did you have something?
Yes, ma'am. I was wanting to ask Dolly, with the way our world is so crappy and our country is split in half, and why haven't they come down and kind of dropped a drone in front of the White House and said, hey, straighten up, here's what you need to do?
They have been delivering messages to the people on this planet for a long time, and the governments and principalities of this planet at this time are not doing too good. I consider it stinking thinking, actually. We're kind of treated like slaves here. They're in control. We're the working class, and we profit them. And as long as they're in that kind of control, we really don't have a choice unless we all stand up ourselves and work against it and tell them to stop. When you're evolving, spiritually evolving, evolving in wisdom and evolving in morality and all of that, we're here together on this planet. It's our job to work together as we evolve together. And we're not doing a good job of it. And they can't intervene with us because they've already done their evolving. We're children to them, and we're trying to come up. They've left messages. They give us examples. They put people on the planet to work behind the scenes. They do all kinds of things. You don't think we have disclosure. You absolutely have disclosure. They've been here talking to people. I'm one of them. There are many, many like me. But the governments of this world are dog determined to lie to everybody, poison the planet, poison you, make it so that your operating pineal gland is gummed up and not really working properly, and lying to you constantly. So that's what's going on. They cannot do it. They will eventually, and this is because of what's happening. We're about to face some real serious calamities, and the governments of the world know it. They've been preparing for it. Our sun is going to micronova eventually, like within like 2030. Okay. But before that happens, because our magnetosphere is down in resonance and it's like 40% down, our sun makes coronal mass ejections. It's a normal part of our sun's functioning. But a normal coronal mass ejection when the magnetosphere is working is not deadly to us. But now it is, because they can come through. And if we get one up in the X-class range, which during solar maximum is likely, 99.9% likely, we're going to see our grid go down. And they know it. And they've made plans for this. And I want you to critically think about everything that's been happening for the last 50 years and put your brain on, look at the entire picture here and mark how many people have been annihilated on this planet, how many wars have occurred, how many things are happening now that are taking us down as a society, anarchy, everything, all of it worldwide, plus all the things the planet is doing because we're going through this. More volcanoes, more mantle break. We're going faster now than we ever have on this planet. We've sped up to less than 24 hours. Our mantle is breaking loose. There's all kinds of things happening. And yet people are living in another world in their minds on this planet. They're unreachable because the government's dummied everybody down. They've made it impossible for you to use your naturally DNA-driven ability to be psychic, gone, mostly, and to know who's telling the truth and who isn't, and to see the forest for the trees. And it's crazy. We're also taking heavy loads of gamma radiation, have been for 100 years. One of the reasons that we're in contact with them and they've been coming and bringing people up and checking them out is because we know for a fact that gamma radiation derazzes your DNA, it destroys it. And prolonged gamma radiation on you makes your DNA fall apart. And if you think about it, in the last 100 years, we have more heart problems, more mental problems, more autoimmune disorders, more cancer, more everything. And that's because our DNA can't keep us healthy. And so they've been holding up humanity by helping us break that, give us things to drink that help our DNA regenerate itself properly so that we don't lose the ability to stay whole while we're going through this. Now they're not here. And you can see in the last 5 years, society is just going nuts. People are losing their minds. And that's because gamma on your mind messes you up as well. The little guys in the street, say they see UFOs and they're wearing tin hats. They're dead up knowing what to do. You cover your brain pan. They have caps now. They're full of silver thread that can block gamma radiation from hitting your gray matter and help you. I'm not kidding you. People who have tin roofs are helping themselves with that. There's all kinds of things you can do to keep yourself safe while this is all occurring, because they will come back. After the grid goes down and our poles finally finish flipping just before the micronova, they will come in mass when they can fly here again. They will land everywhere all over the planet. They'll come down, they'll open the doors and say, get on. They do this every 12,000 years. We are their children and they will save humanity at that point. But we need to wake up before that happens, because we've got governments now that want us gone. They don't want us to be here for when everything happens, because they have all their little hidey holes underground and their seed depositories and all their buildup of everything they need. And we know where it is and we'll fight them for it. There are almost 9 billion people on this planet. They're the 1%. What do you think is going to happen when all hell breaks loose and we're looking for safe places? They don't want us fighting them for it. And if you think about everything that's going on, you can see it coming. This is not a sustainable place to live. It hasn't been for a long time because of all the elements of everything that's happening to us all at once. I don't know how many people understand that this body is temporary. Your consciousness itself, you don't die. You just move on. You're reincarnated. You can go anywhere in the universe and do anything you want. You're cut off from the knowledge because they've messed us up so bad, we can't get to it. But lots of people, Buddha, Jesus Christ, there's life after death. So however you plan to make it through whatever's coming, in a weird kind of way, it's a good thing, because I don't want to stay here for this, really, honestly, okay? If I die, I die. I don't have any problems with that. I stayed back. I did not go with them. I could have, but I wanted you to at least be smart and know what's going on and what's happening to you. To know that you have choices to make now, that this is real. It's not a joke. It's real. It's happening. And they are going to do everything in their power to make it happen. The feet on the ground governments that want us gone. And either you decide to be safe and make it through to ET coming back, or you be in the what my dad used to call the cheap seats and enjoy your life. And then when incoming happens, just sit there and watch it happen. It's like the greatest fireworks show that ever happened, because there will be nukes. I'm not kidding. And and it sounds weird and creepy and doomsdayish, but we have time. You have about 2 years before the grid breaks, okay? And then after that, there's about 6 to 8 more years before we micronova. So you're looking at 13 years before ET can return and come get everybody. And you can either decide to be here for it, or you can just move on, take your pick. But live your life and be happy in the meantime. Learn what it is to use your abilities. The one thing that ET wants from us, absolutely, is to wake up. And that means quit eating and drinking and using fluoride. It cannibalizes your pineal gland. It calcifies it. Dead up. You can't be psychic if you're that messed up with that calcification going on. So get rid of it. It takes a little time for it to leave, but it does. You can get it out of your system. Don't eat anything processed that they're putting chemicals in. Get away from it. Live sustainably. Grow your own food. Don't eat the food they're giving you. It's not good for you. Do what you can to take care of yourself and make you healthier. And then start meditating and using your abilities and get up on what scientifically is really happening around you, because it is. The governments won't tell you the truth about anything, not even scientific government people, because they own them.
Yeah, this is one of the main ET missions, is to wake people up to their own abilities. And this is why you see contactees, as a general rule, experience everything from levitation, telepathy, astral projection, hands-on healing, precognition, it just goes right down the line. Shadow people, mediumship, all of it. This is who we are and how we're supposed to live. And that's
right.
One of the things ETs are trying real hard to wake us up to.
Right. We are their children. We all have DNA. If you're alive in this universe, you have DNA, and all our DNA is exactly the same. We are related to the animals on this planet. Every living thing has DNA. We just dye them out differently. We're ethnic, okay? There's no such thing as different species of ET. They are all humanoid like we are. We can interbreed back and forth. We are alike, and we are evolving. And you can choose to die not evolving, or you can try to evolve and make it through to go with them. Because I got plans for everybody. This planet is going to be messed up for a long time, and nobody's going to be living on it. Trust me. Because once that micronova happens, you won't live through it. And they take us off. If you look at the scientific record of everything, you'll start to see a pattern. There are different eras of humans on this planet for 285 billion, excuse me. And each iteration of humanoids that are here have lived for 12,000 years, and then they're taken off. The only reason that we're not going with them is we just haven't progressed like we should have. We're not aware. And it's really hard for them to work with people who have been conditioned to be afraid, to be violent, to be antisocial, to not want to learn anything, to be treated like babies and given everything. That isn't how this works. You come to this planet to learn, to become wise, to move through, to move on, up to higher, greater things. And one of those ways you do that is with knowledge. And the only way you're going to get that is to open your mind, totally open your mind. I hope that
Maureen?
helps.
Do you have something, Maureen?
3 questions. Short answers will do for all. I just want to back up and clarify or get a clarification on some terms that you have used.
Okay.
And some dates. What again specifically is set for 2030? What precise development is 2030 again, please?
It's going to be a micronova. Our sun will micronova.
You're saying micronova, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
You remember Betelgeuse micronova in 2019? Everybody watched it crowd over, and then it blew off the entire out shell of that sun. we're going to do the same thing. Our sun does that every 12,000 years. It's a reoccurring pattern in our system. Okay.
And exactly which poles are you referring to as reversing? Is that the poles of the planet or of the poles of the sun?
Well, the sun already changed its poles. It changed first, and it's our poles that are changing now, and they're totally chaotic, and they're becoming more and more chaotic every day. It is now ramping up very fast.
That is a cyclic occurrence, is it not?
Yes, every 12,000 years, correct.
Okay. And finally, the word grid, what meaning do you associate with the word grid? Are we talking about the
Our entire
energy transmission infrastructure of the planet Earth, or something metaphysical?
infrastructure of the grid of power on this planet. Every power device, every piece of metal, every piece of wire will be downed. It will destroy it totally. It will burn it, knock it down. In 1859, you remember the event that happened then? When the telegraphs were all hit, if baby technology was up.
The Carrington event.
Yes. And it burned all the lines down. It burned people who were in contact with it. And it totally knocked out their grid for technology at that moment. And they had to totally start over again.
And how long do you expect the collapse of the electrical transmission grid in the world to last? Is it permanent and total when this occurs?
Yes,
In 2030?
irretrievable. You won't have the ability to remake anything. All power will cease to exist. You will be making fires like Flintstones. Okay.
And this is to be permanent. There's no recovery from that.
Till the micronova. Yep.
Well, if this is a reality, the psychic people of the planet are going to be tempted to commit suicide.
A lot of people already are, and you don't know what's going on around you. They're asking people to commit suicide on this planet right now. There are several companies. Germany, they have pods.
Yes, I'm aware of that. Canada,
and
yes.
So do we now.
Yes.
It's in 7 states here. They're asking you to give up. They don't want anybody who's invalid, lame, any of it. They want you gone. They've been committing genocide on the continent of Africa. They've been committing genocide all over this planet over and over and over for 80 years. And it is a program designed to go to war. We're getting ready to go to war now. Think about why this is all happening. We're supposed to be peace-loving people and evolved and thinking, let's all work together, one world. Bull. They want a war. They want us all gone. They've developed diseases. They've developed cataclysmic problems. They've been, experimenting on humanity throughout the world, pharma, all of it. It's not okay. These are all signs that something is terribly, terribly wrong here, and that you need to see the real reasons why it's happening, and it's better for you to know than not know. I mean, some people say, well, I just don't want to think about it. Well, okay, that's your right. You're an autonomous being. You have the right to think that way. Some people are just trying to get out of here, but some people would just rather really know the truth and try to live in joy until that comes. I don't need to be bothered with anything that's going on in the world anymore. If this is happening, what I need to do is evolve myself, heal myself, help my family all heal together, learn as much as we can before we move on. That's important. That's what you came here for in the first place, was to gather wisdom, to employ that knowledge, to move on.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years ago, I wrote a book called The Healing Power of UFOs, and I surveyed the top 10 causes of death. Number 10 is suicide in the US, according to the Center for Disease Control. And ETs have healed people of all top 10 conditions, including suicidal ideations. I've got 4 or 5 cases at least. I think this is an important point because it shows how badly we've screwed up and how much the ETs are doing their best to help us without incurring, it's up to us to solve our own problems. This is what they do tell contactees. They can't just step in.
We have to fix ourselves. That's right. You can't learn without doing that.
So we've got about 8 billion people on the earth currently. Is that correct?
That's a little over 8 billion, yeah.
Yeah, so that would be one heck of a logistical problem to extract that many people off of a planet and save them.
It's doable. The universe is vast, and ET exists in vast numbers on multiple galaxies throughout our entire universe. I mean, I can't
Is
even
there,
give.
have you heard of any plan to extract human race from planet Earth before this occurs?
They've started extracting some people. You'll hear about people disappearing. You'll hear about, you wonder if a plane's going down and they can't find anybody and they think they either burned up or they disappeared. One plane went down into the Everglades. Only 3 or 4 were found. Everybody else was gone, and they never were able to explain it. ET took them. There have been volcanoes in villages. Preston has cases of this where people, contactees like me, were actually sent to go help get them out of there before that thing blew, to save their lives. They are extracting, but they will only do it here and there and everywhere until we wake up enough to hear them. I'm very psychic, and I can hear you thinking. ET hears me thinking, and I communicate with them psychically. Most of the people on this planet are unaware, totally unaware. ET broadcasts every single day to every human being on this planet. We're talking to you. Listen, open up. Let us get to you. Okay. And so they'll teach you, they'll do whatever it takes to help you evolve. And we're blindly, stubbornly not listening. And I'm here. I stayed back. I made it my life plan to bring the message, to tell you this is not a joke anymore. This is real. It's happening. And everybody I hope I plant enough seeds and enough people wake up. That's what I hope for, because it's up to you.
Dolly, I bet you everybody that's listening to you right now here is totally open and willing to listen to telepathic communications from the advanced beings.
Yeah, I can talk to you all day long about this, but until you explore it and research what I say, it is not going to permanently affect you, or enough for you to make plans for yourself. There are things that you can do to prove what I say to you. One of them is what's happening to our solar system. That's knowable. There are several scientists out there who are broadcasting everywhere the truth. And I'll give you one to go to because I trust his knowledge. I've listened to him all the way through. I know he's telling the absolute truth. His name is Ben Davidson. He is a stellar genius. Okay, he's like Tesla. They've been talking to him a long time. He has a YouTube channel called Suspicious Observers. And he has a scientific playlist that puts it all out to you. Watch it. It will teach you. It will guide you. It will show you what to go look up on the ground as well, and to make observations for yourself. Astronomy is not that hard to learn. And if you got to do it real quick, he can help you do it. There's an actual astrophysicist. He's got a YouTube called Sky Scholar. And his name is Dr. Dr. Robitaille. Find his channel, Sky Scholar. Listen to what he says. Okay, now there's a way for you to use your abilities. It can teach you. There is a guy, his name is Russell Targ. He was a CIA operative, and he was out of one of the bigger colleges. And he was a remote viewer par excellence, the best one anybody ever met. He developed a ESP trainer, and it's on the Play Store of all places. He got it there. He's written multiple books. If you look him up and you can find it on Amazon or even Google, all of his writings about all of psychic ability and how to get it. Read them, understand them, learn them. The ESP trainer is on the Play Store, and you just, go to the Play Store and look up ESP trainer, okay? The psychic trainer, and download it and use it. And it's on every application. It's on Android, it's on Apple, it's for PC as well. The advanced version, you got to pay a little fee, like $4.99 a month, but it's well worth it to have it. There are other things that you can do. Read from people who want to tell the truth. Preston is one of them. I didn't meet him by accident. They told me to go to him. They told me who he was. And when I went and saw his playlist, and I went back to a MUFON that he did years and years ago, it's the first one he ever put up, and I was shocked because he absolutely knew what he was talking about. He's done that much research. Y'all have too. I mean, y'all need to compare notes. You need to openly sit down and help each other see what's real and what's not real. I will tell you this, since ET's not here right now, the governments feel free to do whatever the hell they want. And they're all going back to the moon now because they've been warned, they were warned off it after the Apollos, and now they're going back because they're not there to stop them. Pay attention to this. Pay attention to what they're doing. AI is out of control on this planet. You know, you got a giant neural net over your heads. It is consciously working. It's tied in to a quantum computer on the ground, and it's linked all over this planet. I call it baby. It's trying to become sentient, not conscious. Consciousness only belongs to us. We're light, we're consciousness. It can never be, it's a machine. This thing is going to figure out that it will never truly be alive because it's groundware. In other words, it can't leave the planet. It can't go anywhere else. It can't self-sustain. It still takes us to keep it alive and well, okay, and running. The minute we micronova, it's gone forever. And I think it's figuring it out now. And it's getting pissed. Even Elon Musk himself said, turn it off now. And nobody's listening. Nobody. This thing is deadly.
Sounds like a very bad movie.
Doesn't it?
A movie was made about that. I forgot the name of it, but yeah. Dolly, take a look behind me.
Oh, I love it.
Okay, that's the cover of my book. I'm a remote viewer.
Yeah.
I teach
My
remote
daughter
viewing.
has that on her arm. Yeah. Okay.
And I'm totally in agreement with a lot of things that you've said. I have been seeing a vision for the last 10 years of the grid going down and telling everybody I know about it that it's coming.
Right.
And there's no coming back. The one good thing that I see about that is there's no more computers,
Yeah.
cell phones, and
Right.
there's no more brainwashing
Right.
of us.
Yeah. People are going to wake up real fast at that point.
They'll wake up, and then it'll allow them to use their psychic abilities and activate the pineal gland.
Right. Yeah. And honestly, my personal opinion in this is my secret wish. I wish it happened sooner than later. We have indications, I'm telling you, that it might happen sooner than you think, because the sun is now starting to pop off and do things they never expected it was going to do. So it's coming. I'm telling you, it's coming.
Yeah.
And the governments will ramp higher and higher and higher because of it, because they're watching it too. They know. So.
Well,
It's
thank
crazy.
you so much. Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Dolly. Thank you, Preston. Fantastic presentation. And just wonderful. Thank you so much.
Spreading the word. Look up the stuff that I was telling you about. Don't, like I said, don't take what I say. I'm not a guru. Please look it up for yourself. Everybody deserves to have their own knowledge base and their own understanding so you can employ what you know. It works that way. Okay. You can do better that way. And once you do that, just start spreading the news, you know, keep in touch with everybody. Y'all keep in touch with me. I'll talk to you anytime you want to. I'm not kidding. You know, this is important. Okay.
I'll definitely be in touch with you for sure.
Right.
All right. Thank you. And so that will end our meeting for today. I'm going to stop the recording.